Hello everyone and welcome back. We're going to be talking about free hit for Gameweek 33, everything to consider, a draft that I've made, my own personal team, and what my team would look like without the free hit. Let's get into it. So I have four things here to consider, and I think that they are very important to consider because if you want a free hit, you got to really think about why you're doing it and what you're going to gain from it. So the first thing I've got here is how many double game week players can I have to avoid the free hit? I think that if you have for this game week at least five double game weekers, you could avoid using the free hit. I think you had someone like Saka, Veghurst, you have some people like Schmeichel and that, maybe Dubravka, you have Shar, anything like that. If you have five of those players, also some Leicester players as well, could be good. But yeah, I think if you have at least five players, that's all you're really gonna need for this game week because it's not a lot of amazing players, and a lot of people are avoiding the free hit this week to use it for game week 37. The next one is when I free hit, how many single game week players should I have? I don't think there's necessarily a minimum or maximum for this answer, but I think that there's a recommendation of I think maybe two or three single game week players is the most you should have in your starting 11. I think having eight double game weekers is really gonna set you up for success. Even the even just the show points for strikers is really gonna help you out here. And I just think that there's not a lot of like amazing first single game weekers this week. I mean like Son, Kane are obvious ones. For example, maybe some Man City players, some Liverpool players are people that you could consider, but Liverpool are playing Man United, so they're not really the forefront of our attention. And Man City players can be rotated any time because they're going to be in the Champions League. So we have to really consider these things when we're looking at them. And also, Liverpool have to play Liverpool and Man City have to play on the weekend for the FA Cup. So there's a lot to consider for this. Um, I think that the players you would probably look at the most for single game week is probably Tottenham players. And I'm not saying that just because I'm biased and I love Tottenham, but because I think that they have been in amazing form, at least in the strikers with Son and Kane and Kulusevski, they've all been in fantastic form. And they're playing Brighton at home, which is not necessarily an easy fixture after we saw what happened with Arsenal last week, but I think that could be potentially an easy fixture for them to get some goals. So overall, how many single game players should I have? I say probably two or three at most in your starting 11. An interesting question this week is, are the teams that are doubling worth free hitting in? I think that's definitely something that people should be considering when you're looking at the teams that are bringing in. There's Manchester United, who have been in pretty interesting form recently, to say the least. Arsenal, who have Southampton and Chelsea both away, which is difficult fixtures. Brighton, who have absolutely terrible fixtures against Tottenham and Man City, both away. So you're not going to be bringing any of them. Burnley, I mean, do you really want Burnley players? Like, they're not amazing. Their team has been pretty trash. Have you seen Veghurst getting pulled off in the 58th minute? To be the ultimate troll for the Norwich game. But they're playing two away games, or not two away games, sorry, West Ham away and Southampton at home, which are not easy fixtures. Um, the only teams that really look like they're worth bringing in for the double would be Newcastle and Leicester. Newcastle have two home games against Leicester and Crystal Palace, and Leicester have Newcastle away and Everton away. Two great fixtures for these teams. So honestly, like you might be wanting to try to double up on these teams when you do the free hit. The other team that is also doubling is Southampton. Not a great fixtures as well. They have Arsenal at home and Burnley away. Burnley away could be a good game for them, but Arsenal at home, terrible fixture. So overall, is it worth free hitting for these teams? I don't know if it's necessarily worth free hitting for these teams, but I just don't think there'd be a better time to free hit, at least for my team personally. And I know a lot of other people who are probably gonna have trouble with the doubles this week. So I think that free hitting this week can be worth it. The teams doubling are not necessarily the best ones, but they are going to be very differential. So if you're trying to go up the ranks pretty quickly, this could be a good time to do it. And finally, is any team that's doubling worth tripling up on? A very interesting question to say the least. I think that, like I said before, Man United, sorry, and Newcastle are probably the only two teams that might be worth tripling up on. Oh, sorry, and Leicester as well. Those are the three teams that are probably worth potentially tripling up on. I think Manchester United is probably the only one I'm going to be tripling up on, just because that whole Norwich at home, and they don't have anything else to play for. Leicester, the only problem with them is that they have Europa League, so you have no idea who's going to play. James Justin could be benched, Madison could be benched, Barnes could be benched. The only player that really you're 100% probably going to start is Schmeichel. And then Newcastle, they haven't getting much better defensively, but like attacking wise, they've been pretty bad. So like Wood is someone that you could maybe consider. Say Maximan maybe, but there's just not a lot going forward for them that you really want to consider. So I think you probably get one of the defenders in, but tripling up on them seems very high risk. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the most optimized team according to Fantasy Football Hub's predicted scores for this week. So starting off in net, we have Dubravka. 7.7 points is pretty decent. Crystal Palace, Leicester. I could see them getting a clean sheet in one of those. So 7.7 is probably a pretty realistic number for once. Shar, same thing, basically 7.2. This has a lot of triple ups. It has the three triple ups that I actually was mentioning: Newcastle, Leicester, and Manchester United. I think there's a couple players here that are problematic for this team. Um, I think Justin could easily be benched in one of those two games. I think Barnes could easily be benched. Same with Madison. I think I'd probably still start Madison anyways, but I think Barnes just he does look electric. He does look like the most likely to score, but I just think that he just hasn't been. So it's like, do you go with form over the expected goals, or or you just go for it and hope that he finally returns what he's supposed to be returning? Another two are Ronaldo and Lacazette up top. Even Wood, but I think Wood is probably the least standout of the three. Ronaldo, I just am worried that he might get some kind of disciplinary action for what he did to that Everton fan. Um, and I just don't know how good he's been. And if he does get benched in one of those two games, then Fernandez would be a great player to have because he would be on penalties again. So that's something that would definitely help raise his stock. Lacazette has just been on terrible form. He hasn't scored since like December 26th, I think is what the stats were telling me at one point. So he's just been on terrible form recently. I just don't know how much you're really willing to put on Arsenal's attack, especially when it's Lacazette that you're putting it on. I think Saka could be definitely worth it, but not Lacazette. Wood, I think, probably could get some returns here. He's on penalties, so not too bad. Sancho and Fernandez, I think, are great picks. They're picks that I definitely am considering as well. I think that they're probably the best looking players for Manchester United this week. Maybe you can get a defender in there as well, but I think those two in midfield are definitely the two standouts. And then it has Tarkowski in as well, which I'm kind of surprised by because I know Burnley's defense has been a little bit better, but the last two games they just looked very shambolic. I mean, losing to Norwich 2-0 is just not something you want to be doing very often. Especially when you're in a relegation battle with Everton, like you just can't be losing those easy games. That should have been an easy win for them. Um, but yeah, overall this team's decent. On the bench they have Kyle Walker-Peters, Livramento, and Martinelli. Not in that order. I think they put Martinelli first, then Walker-Peters, then Livramento, and they have Pope on the bench as well. I think Martinelli could be a good player this week, to be honest. If you have him in your team already, that's pretty decent. I think that him or Saka or Odegaard could be all three of them could be great picks this week, just because if they play, they do well, and if they don't, then somebody else will probably come on for them. This team actually is also valued at under 100 million, so every single person should be able to afford this team. I'm not sure if this is a team that I would definitely go for if I had only 100 million, but it's definitely something to consider if you are looking for some budget options. So I thought just to get a quick understanding of why I need to free hit this week and why I think potentially others might need a free hit this week is because if you look at my team, it is pretty trash. It has three double game wickers, one on the bench in Dubravka, but I can't play both goalkeepers unfortunately. I have Doherty who's injured. I have one free transfer, and I have four players playing Manchester United, one playing Arsenal, and just an overall pretty weak team. I think that the difference between this team and my free hit team is going to be quite large. And I don't even have anybody on the bench, so if one player misses a single match, I have lost those points. So I think this team definitely needs a free hit, and I'm going to show you what my free hit team looks like so far. So this is what my free hit teams looks like so far. It could definitely change depending on the Leicester result, but honestly, I think Madison and Schmeichel are pretty nailed in my team. You can maybe argue for Barnes instead, but I just think Madison. I think the overall effective ownership is really what's pushing me towards Madison instead of Barnes. I have Gabriel and Saka to attack the Arsenal doubles. I think that the fact that the optimizer doesn't like the Arsenal doubles is a bit harsh on Arsenal. I know that they're not easy fixtures, but I think that Arsenal are better than what they give them credit for. I have Fernandez, Sancho, and Tellez, my only triple up for this game week. The Manchester United triple up. I know it's a little bit risky, but I think Tellez. I think the Norwich away or Norwich at home is pretty likely to get a clean sheet, and the +2 for playing Liverpool, it's pretty decent. I think that's all right. Fernandez captain. I just think that if Ronaldo does not play, I think Fernandez is a great captaincy choice, and I think Sancho can do something on the wing and hopefully get some returns. My Newcastle cohort is going to be Shar and Wood. I think that they are very decent picks this week. I think that Wood is probably likely to get a return. I'm hoping that he will get something, and I think there's probably one clean sheet out of Leicester and Crystal Palace both at home. So I'm hoping that Shark can maybe get like some kind of assist points as well from taking some free kicks. The last two players I'm keeping mostly again because of effective ownership. I'm a little bit risk averse when it comes to my free hit here, but I have Salah and Kane. I think Salah against Manchester United. He's been not off form recently, but I think I think there's a possibility of a penalty in that game, to be honest. And if there's a penalty in that game, Salah scoring and his effective ownership would absolutely destroy my ranks. So I think that it's just a little bit safer to bring him in and just have him there. My other thought was to either take Salah out and bring in Kevin De Bruyne, maybe. I've also thought about Son. I think that Son is probably a better pick than Salah this week overall, but I think that I'm just going to kind of hedge my bets, and that's why I brought in Kane to kind of cover Son. I know he doesn't really cover Son, especially the last couple game weeks, but it could be definitely worse than having no Tottenham players in this team. So I think Kane, Salah are good single game week players. Some other game week players that I've definitely considered for this team are Cancelo and Iheanacho. Who else? James Justin. And that's really it. Those are the other three players that I've been kind of tinkering with, bringing them in, bringing them out. So Cancelo could definitely be in for Gabriel if I somehow rearrange the money to get him in. Potentially, if I take Salah out and bring in Kevin De Bruyne, I could bring up Gabriel to Cancelo. I've also thought about taking Kane out and maybe bringing in Iheanacho, and then taking Sancho out and bringing in Son, and then taking out Gabriel again and bringing Cancelo in. So there's a lot of different ways to go about this team. I think this is probably the best team that I'm going to be able to make with the money I have. On my bench, I have Tarkowski and Rodriguez. I hope they don't have to play, but if they do, I think they're decent picks overall. I think the Burnley fixtures are not actually as bad as they look. And then Foster and net just in case something happens to Schmeichel in the Leicester game and I get hit by a bus and I can't change him out. Foster at least will play, and Shimikas just because if it gets to the third player on my bench, I'm gonna be pretty upset. So at that point, I deserve the 0 points. Anyways, I hope everybody enjoyed this guide to free hit game week 33. I hope that it helped you guys out. I hope that if you guys are free hitting this week, that you're able to use some of the advice and some of the players that I've picked, and hopefully rise up those ranks. Anyways, hope everyone has a good week, and cheers, everyone.